Who is at risk of depression is the topic of today. Like I said earlier on when I started this topic, that anybody could be at risk of depression. Depression could happen to anyone. Anybody could be sick, because depression is just like you get sick in the physical, that is physical, medical sickness, physical sickness. But depression is when you are sick in your soul, when the soul is sick. Now, there might be factors that are responsible for that, like we are going to talk about now. And there might be people who are more susceptible to depression than others for one reason or the other. Just the same thing with physical sickness. If your eating model could affect your health, your physical health, a lot of things affect your physical health. The same way, a lot of things could affect your soul health, or the health of your soul, man. So today we're going to be talking about these factors. Who are the people who are susceptible to depression? Who could be attacked by depression, and who could be sick of depression? Who is at risk of depression? Like I said, every human being could be. Either even when you have taken the most important precautions, when you have done the most important things, when you have, for example, we used to think that a Christian cannot be depressed. I used to preach like that. I used to say that how can you be a Christian and you are depressed? And the reason why I said that is because I've also learned from other people who said that. I heard preachers saying, how can you be baptized in the Holy Spirit and still be depressed, that you are not baptized in the Holy Spirit, or you are not born again? And I had repeated that also until I began to study this topic, and I saw my ignorance, that is ignorant of me to have said Christian cannot be depressed. That is ignorant of me to have said that it means you are not saved or you are not born again if you are depressed. No. That's false assertion. And that is why a lot of Christians are suffering in silence and until they commit suicide. That's why you find out that Christians commit suicide, because they cannot admit to the fact that they actually have depression, because they have been taught and they have been discouraged from even admitting it, or they have been brainwashed to thinking that people who are depressed are suffering from some evil spirits or some the generational curses that are after them. So people don't want to see themselves as being afflicted by demons, or being demon possessed, or being under generational curse. And also, even when people are really suffering with symptoms already of depression, a lot of believers and a lot of churches will send them to deliverance services. And it is not by deliverance service, this is such a sickness that deliverance service, God can do everything, but it's not the kind of thing you send people to deliverance service for. It's just like somebody having cancer and you are sending him to deliverance service. You need to give him some treatment, my dear. And of course, God can heal cancer. He heals cancer. God can heal depression too. But it's not your regular demon possessed. It's not someone that is depressed doesn't have demon possession at all. He doesn't have anything mental. He doesn't have any insanity. He's just sick. His soul is sick. It's not about casting out demons. It's not about going for deliverance services. No, anyone, even including the pastor himself that is doing that deliverance service, could be suffering from depression and could be susceptible to depression. Anybody could be at risk of depression. Anybody could fall into depression. Anybody could be attacked by depression. Just like anybody could be sick in the physical, anybody could be sick in the soul as well. So who are the people that are much more at risk, though, of being depressed? The most important thing we have to know is that depression most of the time has one form of medical or chemical imbalance and the other. So depression is almost 90% of depression, cases of depression, is connected or could be connected or is connected with chemical imbalances. Either it is the chemical imbalances that led to the depression, or the chemical imbalances will come after as a result of the depression. But for example, let's say that you have, and I'm going to talk about the chemical factors and the chemical imbalances and the chemical things that are in the body that if you lack them, you will have depression. Or if you begin to have the reduction of those chemical elements, that you will begin to have depression. What are the chemical elements that you lack that will lead to depression? We'll talk about that in another topic, okay? But right now, I just want to talk about the factors, the people that are susceptible, that are at risk. So since it could be chemical imbalance in the body, it means everybody is at risk, because you don't know what makes chemical imbalances to come. Some we could know, but some you don't even know. You don't even know there are those chemicals in your body. You don't even know that there is an imbalance in some extent, because you are living a normal life. Your body is okay in the sense that you are physically fit, you are physically healthy. The fact that you are healthy doesn't mean that all the chemicals in your body, and there are thousands of chemicals in your body that must be balanced. So there are certain ones though that are connected to your brain and connected to your soul and to your mood and to your emotions and to your feelings, that when they are deficient and when they are not enough or when they are not present, of course it will lead to you being depressed. So since it is chemical like that and it is medical, we could now say that cannot be called demons, or that could not be called generational curses, and that could not be demonized anyway. It is just chemical processes in the body, and you cannot blame the person for it. That's what I'm trying to say. You'd stop blaming the victims of suicide or of depression, because it's just like saying when somebody is sick, instead of you to attend to them, you begin to blame them. No, what's supposed to be normal is that when someone is sick, you attend to them. You meet their needs. You help them to resolve the problem. You don't begin to attack them and begin to point accusing fingers at them. But maybe, of course, some scientists have argued that it is not in all cases that chemical imbalances lead to depression. But in most cases, either it leads to it, or the depression started from something else, and it will also lead to chemical imbalance. But depression, all specialists that I've studied, all books that I've read in preparing for this for the past 3 years, will tell you that there is no one single cause for depression. There is no one single reason for depression. So chemical imbalance is just one of such causes. There are so many other things that could lead to depression, and the cause of depression that I'm going to be talking to you about today. So chemical imbalance is the number one reason why depression happens to people, why people fall into depression. So who is it that could have chemical imbalance? Everybody. Even if you don't have enough sun, could lead to chemical imbalance. If you don't have enough vitamins, could lead to chemical imbalance. If you don't have enough fellowship, enough relationship with people, could lead to chemical imbalance. If you don't have enough self-image, could lead to chemical imbalance. So a lot of things could lead to chemical imbalances. So that means every one of us could be a victim of depression in that sense. So what are the other factors that could make people to have depression? Who are the other categories of people that are susceptible to depression apart from the chemical factor? Well, it has been discovered though that sometimes depression could be genetic. That depression could be genetic. That it could be in your DNA from your parents, your relatives, your grandparents, people that are in your blood system. So if it is in your family, just like with cancer, not the highest percentage of people have it from genetical, that it could be coming from their parents. But in the case of depression, I think it's 4% of people. 4% of people who suffer from depression are the ones who got it from, their genetics. But 90 4% leaves us with 96% are other factors that are responsible for this, for depression. So genetic, there's nothing you can do about it. It's genetics. You are born like that. You are born the way you are. You are born by your parents. You are born in your family. You can't really do nothing about it. But apart from genetics, who are the other people that could have depression? Who are the other people that are susceptible to depression? The other group of people that are susceptible to depression are people who have been suffering from serious and especially incurable diseases. A lot of people who maybe not just diseases, let me say it differently. A lot of people who are faced with unresolvable situations, people who are continuously or who for a long time have been facing unresolvable problems. So especially with sickness. So a lot of people who are in that kind of situation, who are facing incurable diseases, incurable sickness, they have done everything and they are not getting healed, serious illnesses, serious sicknesses, and they have drawn up and down, they have spent everything, and there is no hope, there is no deliverance, there is no hope, no help. 90% of the situation, 90% of cases, people end up being depressed because there is no hope. Also, but it's not just in connection to sicknesses. Any kind of situation in life, anybody that faces any kind of situation or circumstances in life whereby the thing becomes hopeless, the thing becomes irresolvable, the circumstances, the situation becomes unsolvable, and it's like there is no light at the end of the tunnel. There is no light at the end of the tunnel for him or for her. When you face that life and it's continuous, it's been like a year, 2 years, many years, you are facing an insolvable situation, a hopeless situation, that leads to depression. Why? Because whenever there is lack of hope, whenever there is no hope, the energy to live dies. The energy to live begin to wane. That's why people who are given death sentence and they are not being killed, or life sentence, or people who are given death sentence but they are not being killed for a long time, or people who are given life sentence, that's lack of hopelessness. They sometimes come out and say, it's better we die, come and kill us right now. So that's the kind of thing, because that lack of hope, that inability to see what next, leads to depression, because it stops the flow of the energy of life and leads to depression. So, and who is the person? Who are the people that could be faced with unresolvable problems and situations? Who? Everybody could be faced with this. Everyone could face irresolvable situations. Unresolvable situations. Every single person, good, bad, rich, poor, ugly, handsome, beautiful, not beautiful. Every single person in life could be faced with situations and circumstances where they don't see any particular solution in front of them. So hopelessness, and this is another form of reason why people fall into depression. When hopelessness comes to your life, it's like you are locked up, because hopelessness spells lack of perspective. You don't see anything waiting for you in the future. It's like you are put in a jail, but in a dungeon, not a jail. It's where everything is dark. That is how people who are depressed feel like. So you are telling them, see, you have a wife, you have a, because I have a brother that died of depression. The hero of our family, the patriarch of our family, and the most respected, the most accomplished person in our family. You know, I've told you before the story of how I lost 3 siblings in 6 months. But the most accomplished of them all, when something happened in his life, his brother, his younger brother, who was his closest friend, and they were having plans together to do things in the future. When he died, and then the sister died, so 2 people in his life died in a matter of 1 month or 2 months, and he was the only one left in that level. Other ones were just children. He just went into depression. It means started just saying things like, it mentioned the name of the brother. We didn't agree like this. Why? So that hopelessness, even though he had wife, so people and children, people were telling him, look at your children, look at your wife. He couldn't see anything like that anymore, because when you are in depression, and this kind of depression that he had is called post-traumatic depression. Okay, it's called post-traumatic stress syndrome. So, which means that's another factor right there, that people who have accidents or who have a traumatic experience also most often will get into depression. It most often leads to depression. So actually, most people think that post-traumatic stress disorder is the same thing, or syndrome is the same thing as depression, because they have the same or similar kind of symptoms. So people who have gone through something stressful, something devastating, something traumatic, especially emotionally traumatic, they go into depression. They are susceptible to depression, and it's because it's like they fall from a height so high into a dungeon, and in that dungeon it's like there's no life around them. Yeah, even though physically they could even go to work, go to church, they could do things physically, but in their inner mind they have become blind. They don't see the good things of life. They have become crippled. They can't walk out of that dungeon. It's like you put them in a hole where there is total darkness, no light, no electricity, and then you bind their feet and their arms. You bind them, hands and feet, and throw them there. And no doors, no windows, no lights, no sun. That is how a depressed person feels. Now you understand why depression will lead to suicide. So why does it lead to mass murder or mass shooting? Because that's how they feel inside, like they are born feet and hands, and they are in a dungeon. But in physically they are working and walking and doing everything the physical. So because the whole community around them, or family and relatives, don't understand what they are feeling and what they are going to. So mass shooting is one of the ways for them of them screaming out. Suicide is one of the ways of getting out of that dungeon, but mass shooting is one of the ways. It's just like somebody locked up in a dungeon in the underground of a house, and you can scream, nobody will hear you, but you are still screaming anyway. So shooting other people, mass killing, is one of the means of them screaming. It's not just mass killing people do. It's not just mass shooting people will do, but it's a form of screaming. Can you see me here? I'm dying here. They are inside. They are walking around, but they are bound inside. They are in darkness inside. They are helpless inside, and they are trying to say, "Hey, see me. Hey, can you see my problem? Can you see my, I'm in a desperation here. I'm dying here. So they think that if they would do something catastrophic, people will every attention will now come to them, and they will get them out of there. That, why did you do this? And somebody will, that maybe people will hear them out, or people will see. It's just a way of trying to ask for help and coming out of their dilemma. Similar to what happens to young girls who become prostitutes. Most of the young girls who become prostitutes, or maybe not prostitutes but promiscuous, are girls who had absentee fathers or never had a father. So when they dress and paint themselves and dress vulgar and try to undress themselves and be naked and dance in the casino or nightclubs, or try to go from one boyfriend to the other, they're actually screaming out by saying, hey, I need a father. Can you receive me? Can you accept me? Be my daddy, be my covering, be my pillar, accept me like a father. It's that little child, that little child, that little girl that is inside, that is screaming for daddy's attention. So they're looking for the attention of men, so that one man will become like a father to them and cover them and put them on the lap and cover for them and wash after them. So it is similar to what depressed people feel. They feel that they are abandoned, that they are dejected, that because people don't know what they are going through. And because in most situations, people around them are talking about external stuff. They are not seeing their inner man and inner situation. And they themselves, sometimes they don't even see or know what is wrong with them. They don't know what is happening to them. So they just want to do some catastrophe, bomb something, do some people go to war to just fight, just to be able to, just get themselves out of what is going on there within them. So that's why depression is the biggest disability in life right now, and is the biggest challenge. But all the other people just want to end it all and just go and commit suicide. Of course, there are other reasons why people fall into depression. Other group of people that fall into depression. People who lose their loved ones, like that, my brother. People who lose their loved ones. Not everybody, but it depends on your attachment to that to that loved one. So if you are seriously attached to that member of your family, someone you love, it most often could lead to depression. And then if any stressful event happen in life, like people who have boyfriend, girlfriends, and they break up, especially when that is their teenage years. That's why teenagers have depression a lot. Stressful, too much stress. When something that is too much of a stress, you had an accident, then police are telling you to come there and there. Something that happens, or you have a debt of, you can't pay. Something that is so stressful, that is so difficult to deal with, and that could also lead to depression. Some other people fall into depression because of the medications they take, because it disbalances their chemicals. Other people fall into depression because of inability to maintain and regulate their moods. So difficulty to cope with their moods, because different things are happening. They are up and down like this. There are some other people that also get into depression because of divorce. But divorce is almost as good as dying. So people fall into depression because of that. So all these things are traumatic stuff. Of course, people who are raped also, fall into depression after a rape or sexual assault or abuse, or after people that you have trusted for long, like pastors or leaders, let you down, or even your daddy or your parents. That could also lead to depression. So almost everybody then, when we look at what I've just talked about, you will see that almost everybody is susceptible to depression. Even past experiences, the traumas of the past could lead to depression. Memory of evil, traumatic things that has happened in your life could lead to depression. So, and of course, when it is connected with trauma, I mentioned there's this thing they call PTSD. What is PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder. post-traumatic stress disorder leads to depression almost all the time. And post-traumatic stress disorder is also depression because it ends up in depression. So what is that about? Post-traumatic means, post means after trauma, stress. The stress that, so post-traumatic stress disorder. So there is when you have a big stress in your life, it could lead to trauma. Or when you have a big trauma, it could lead to depression. When you have big stress, it could lead to depression. When you have big trauma, it could lead to depression. But one thing that is common is that stress, a high level of stress, high level of trauma leads to disorder. One disorder or the other. Either it is chemical disorder, trauma, or some disorder in your body, which is regarded as depression. So post-traumatic stress disorder is the same thing as depression, or at least is when trauma leads to. So that's why women who give birth to children also are susceptible. So you say I didn't mention that, I just remember this, because that is a traumatic experience. Pregnancy is a traumatic experience. Pregnancy leads to can lead to depression. People who give birth to children, 60% of them, 40 to 60% of them have depression. They may come back, it leads to depression. Why? Because giving birth is a stress. Giving birth is traumatic. So those people are the people you could categorize as post-traumatic stress disorder, or people who are into accident, or who something traumatic happened to. They got a divorce, or the husband died, the partner died, the son died, the child dies. So anything that causes strong stress, trauma, prison, court cases, those things can lead to post-traumatic disorder, which is depression. So the symptoms of post-traumatic disorder are the same as that of depression. Like you have difficulty concentrating, you feel that you are neglected and you are abandoned, that you are thrown in that dungeon, you are detached from everything, nothing pleases you, nothing makes you happy, no pleasure in your activities, even in the pleasurable things you used to do. You have problem experiencing the same kind of emotion and positive emotion that other people or you used to experience before, that other people are experiencing. You have problems sleeping or getting joy from your sleep, and or getting satisfaction from it. Like, can we show this quotation here? Michelle London is a doctor of psychology from Weiss Memorial Hospital in Chicago. Let's hear what she says about this. Depression is a cruel disease that can affect anyone. You see, it is very easy once the symptoms begin for a person to slide down the black hole. He's talking about the black hole. That's what I call the dungeon. That it's like you are put under in the underground, and everything is closed, no light, nothing, and your legs and feet are tied. That is what people who are depressed feel like. Even though they are walking, they are going to walk, they are doing anything, but the symptoms spiral and feed off of each other, increasing in severity. So those are the let another Ubra prostate. So those are the kind of things that people feel like. So either it is because either they are directly depressed for one reason or the other that I've spoken about the symptoms, or it's as a result of post-traumatic stress disorder. But these are just things that happen to people who are depressed. They lose interest in their pleasure, in the things they used to have pleasure in before. They no longer enjoy what they used to enjoy, their activities. They become more negative about themselves, about life, about everything around them. At times there is no really. Sometimes some people even say they don't even see any reason what led to the depression. They might not be able to even finger it. What is it that led to this depression? But the feelings are real. But the reality of what we are talking about, the symptoms are there. So which means that you have to deal with it. Because just because you don't know the cause doesn't mean that you will deny the symptoms, the reality of what you are feeling. Someone is trying to call me there, but and then anyway, my time is over anyway. I think we're good. Yeah, please go and share this message. Share it with your friends and family members. And if you have not yet joined the mentorship program, go to sundayadelajablog.com/mentorship. And if you want to join us to Nigeria, go to sundayadelajablog.com/Nigeria. If you want to get my books, especially this one that I put on out there today, Why Am I Unlucky? That is the kind of thing that comes to the mind of people who are depressed and people who have post-traumatic disorder as well, even who have traumatic experience. There is always this kind of thoughts come to you all the time. Please get this book. It's going to help you. And you could give to other people as well. Get it on Amazon. You could get it in Africa, in Nigeria, by going to dsabooksplanet.com or okadabooks.com, or you could write to my office by writing to dsasbooks@gmail.com, and we'll be able to send them, but only if you want to buy in bulk. So yeah, I will continue this message tomorrow, but I hope you got a lot today. Thank you so much for your time. Peace.